Welcome to the Mexpreneurs Podcast, the podcast about the stories of Mexican tech startup founders who are building world-class, fast-growing companies and having a positive impact at a large scale. My name is Sergio Chavez. I'm a Mexican based in Germany, a tech startup founder, executive, and mentor, and your host. Today we welcome back Jovan Rebolledo together with his co-founders, Nao Honda, David Chu, and Brandon Booker. They are the founders of SkySpec, a SpaceTech startup based in Tokyo, Japan. SkySpec is focused on satellite and aerial-driven Earth observation, combining real-time satellite images with AI monitoring. Through its technology, SkySpec helps businesses, governments, and other organizations in the real-time monitoring of oil spills and wildfires, as well as in the optimization of high-voltage electricity grids. SkySpec is currently building pilots for power companies, has produced 2 patents, won an entrepreneurship contest in Japan, was elected in an acceleration program in Australia, and is participating in the XPRIZE Wildfire, a global competition for wildfires recognition. Jovan is CEO, Nao is Chief Experience Officer and Chief Marketing Officer, David is Chief Technology Officer, and Brandon is Chief Operations Officer. Jovan is Mexican. He is responsible for building the company and dealing with every aspect from fundraising to technology creation. Nao is Japanese. She is developing SkySpec's user interface. Prior to SkySpec, she was a user interface expert for over 18 years at PFU, a subsidiary of Ricoh, a Japanese multinational corporation. David is from Malaysia. He is responsible for the space data and related technologies, as well as for the AI integration. Before SkySpec, David held leadership roles at companies and universities in Japan and Malaysia in the space and transportation industry. These including him leading in 2017 a Japanese team of graduate students in the SpaceX Hyperloop competition, which reached the finals. Finally, Brandon is from the USA and brings deep expertise on emerging environmental contaminants, petroleum monitoring, and spill response. I hope you enjoy. Support for this episode comes from Partnership Leaders, the leading community of partnership professionals and executives in SaaS and tech, with over 1,500 members globally. We're living the decade of the ecosystem, and every CEO needs to become a partnership leader. Just take a look at the top companies in the world today like Microsoft, Google, and Apple. They have all become platform companies, and partnership executives in IT have been the ones leading these transformations. Partnership Leaders brings these executives together and is building a playbook to enable CEOs and business leaders across industries to transform their organizations into platform companies. If you're a tech startup founder, Partnership Leaders is the place for you to learn how to leverage partnerships to take your business to the next level. I'm a member of PL and co-host of the Germany chapter and have seen firsthand the richness and value of this incredible community. Visit partnershipleaders.com to learn more and to apply to become a member. Make sure to mention in your application that Mexpreneurs referred you so you can receive a special price if your application is accepted. Hello, Honda-san, Jovan, David, Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sergio, for having us again.
My pleasure to be here.
And Jovan, please tell us, what is SkySpec?
SkySpec is an advanced Earth observation data analytics for monitoring environment and infrastructure in real time. Climate change has many issues, and we all know the advancements in artificial intelligence and the space industry is getting more and more affordable. So all these forces are colliding, and it's the right timing, and we are proposing different solutions for having an impact in humanity.
You mentioned many interesting things there, especially the conversion of these 3 trends: climate change, AI advancements, and space industry affordability. David, could you please share with us more about how these trends are coming together and what exactly does that mean?
For space technology, especially right now, we have a lot of satellites in the orbit. They are basically orbiting the Earth, the whole world. So they are generating and producing a lot of data. I still think it is still underutilized to solve a lot of problems down on Earth. So therefore, we see the abundance data waiting to be used and then to be extracted using artificial intelligence to solve some pressing humanity challenges, such as a wildfire or oil spills. Let me give you an example about wildfires. Wildfire news has been happening more frequent and in greater impact every year. And we did a study, and the insurance payout for wildfires in US alone is already $20 billion US. Imagine all these economic, environment, and life losses can be mitigated using this technology we can better use all these resources for developing human technology or for other welfare instead of paying out these losses. So we need to cope with these disasters using technologies and data that we probably already have and just waiting to be extracted and utilized.
In terms of other applications for this technology, we mentioned just wildfires in the moment, which of course is a big challenge. As I understand, there's also other applications, other use cases that you're tackling. So, Brandon, would you mind expanding a little bit more of other applications that you're seeing for the technology that you're developing at SkySpec?
Absolutely. At a global scale, the petroleum industry is $1 billion, huge industry. And they do a lot of transporting crude oil, refined oils, all kinds of petroleum products across the globe. And during these transfer activities, there's a lot of vulnerability for spills and these hazardous chemicals to enter the environment. Currently, the methods for monitoring really remote assets like pipelines tend to be boots on the ground, visual surveys, or monitoring the flow rate with pressure gauges at intermittent intervals. But these have not great detection limits, and you can imagine that getting someone out to check a pipeline in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, routinely can be pretty intermittent. And so what we want to do at SkySpec is provide these companies with the opportunity to utilize satellite-borne Earth observation data to monitor their assets, and so that they can get response times that are near real time for any leaks that may occur. And as David mentioned, we view this as a really ideal opportunity because there is a lot of data out there that is just tremendously underutilized. Our goal at SkySpec is to put those two puzzle pieces together, the need on the industrial side and the opportunities at the satellite side. And we want to bring those together in a very seamless way so that we can provide our customers with a great way to monitor their assets that will provide them with increased optics from society. So when people look at them, they say, hey, look, you guys are doing these great things, monitoring your assets, looking after what you're doing, making sure you're not impacting our habitats, as well as saving the money for any sort of spill or remediation that occurs, because the larger the spill, the exponentially the cost goes up. So detecting these events early and being able to shut off the pipelines, close off the valves, and respond and clean up these events, the earlier they can get to that, the more money they save overall.
So wildfire, oil spills, but you're also doing something in regards to power grids, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. We are putting together the technology, so we expect to use the satellite data to monitor close to real time the power grid, the national grid, so we can offer optimization methods for, you can say, an intelligent national grid. So that's to provide ways on upgrade the operation and even double the capacity of voltage that can be transmitted. So that's what we're working on. And as well, just utilizing the same data or very similar data and very similar also algorithms that we can offer this service as well.
So those are three huge use cases, the ones that you're tackling. And what I was very interested in is you mentioned about the technology, like the technology is there. Like David, you were mentioning about the satellites, a huge potential in terms of data that is out there. But why it's been underutilized? Like why nobody has used it until today, or there's been little usage? Like what's the rationale behind like this gap between the potential, the actual usage of this technology and the current usage of that technology?
In fact, those data actually been provided by the space agency quite some time ago. They have been continuous open data providers, even by the space agency themselves, namely NASA or ESA, even in Japan, JAXA. They are producing those data. However, there comes a time where this data still not yet fully distributed easily and accessible by people. So you can just imagine like it used to be, or actually more like current is still most of the case. When you want to access this data, you kind of have to download like a big file, like tens to even hundreds of gigabytes of data to your computer. And then you need some sophisticated software to extract and study or analyze this image data. And not many people has all those computing resources to do that. So right now, a lot of stuff has been pushed to the cloud computing, where you just need to stream what you need and do the analysis on the part of your interest that you want to solve the problem. So the data flow has actually made it easy for people to access and extract more values. So you can imagine like these platforms like YouTube or Spotify or Netflix makes you easy to access the media content easier because it is easy to access. Now you can use it and extract more values further downstream applications such as wildfires, oil spill detection, power grid infrastructure monitoring to solve specific domain knowledge problem that requires all this data.
And Honda-san, if I may ask you, because my understanding is that you're working on the user experience side. David was just mentioning a moment ago about the accessibility of these data and how people are consuming it. Could you please talk a little bit about the user experience side of SkySpec? Like, how are you working to make these data accessible to, let's say, the governments who are responsible for overseeing these wildfires or the companies responsible for these oil pipelines? How are you tackling these from a user experience perspective to make these data accessible?
I've been as a designer, user interface, and UX designer. Before, my previous company is a document scanner and keyboard company. And at that time, my job is to make people understand. For example, AI. AI is very, very difficult to use for people. So my job is to make people use easier and understandable. This is my job. SkySpec technology is different. Before, I was making document scanners user interface, but SkySpec now satellite and many, many big data. But basically, it's same for me to make people understandable. And this is what I do in SkySpec.
David, Jovan, do you want to expand a little bit more on that?
Sure, I see Nao Honda son in our team. Basically, me and Jovan, we are engineers. Like we tend to focus a lot on the technology, the coolness of technology. We always keep in mind that we need to get this technology in the hands of user. So the user needs to know how to use our product, regardless what kind of technology we push in. So we want to have someone in our team, like Honda-san here, to actually represent how the user will interpret what we want to provide to the user. So they must know how to use it. Even without realizing it, we are even using space data or AI, it must be able to let them use. They don't have to know what we are providing. The value of Honda-san here is create this seamless user experience. Even she doesn't know the technical part, but she can extract the design interface, the experience part of it. This is why we have this in mind and include her in the earliest development of the product.
Sometimes I'm a designer and the others are engineer. And sometimes the engineer is very, very technology enthusiastic, technology mania. Sometimes they often focus on technical aspect. My job is as a designer to make people more human-centric and user-friendly. That is my job in SkySpec.
I see you're tackling a big problem. The technology is there. You're working on making it accessible to the users. But what I would love to know more is about your secret sauce. Like, what is the secret sauce behind SkySpec? Like, what is that big differentiator that you're bringing into a table? Is it that combination of making these data accessible? Is it the type of technology that you're developing? Like, what is that aspect that is unique to SkySpec in this space?
The technology that we're putting together is we are putting the state of the art, even under the radar AI, that we are solving this problem in a very different way with things called manifolds, for instance, for predicting even the next event. So that's something that is not a typical deep learning or generative AI. It's something that is going beyond. So we are trying to utilize this absolutely new AI, but also the capacity, our secret. So I really believe is our people, like the understanding, for instance, that Brandon has in environmental science and David has in space and Honda-san has making intuitive interfaces. So I think this combination is what I think is very, very powerful. And I think that's our secret sauce.
I would like to add on a little bit on the culture or the way we run the startup. It's also part of our secret sauce where we are more customer or user centric. So we don't intend to push the technology rather than we pull what technology that is appropriate to solve a particular customer problem. And therefore, we are more agnostic to technology platform. We are more nimble. We don't have to hard sell whatever technology that we have already heavily invested in. We use the best and the most appropriate technology out there. to solve the problem in the most efficient way.
So personalization, that agnosticity that you have to provide the best solution for each individual customer, for each individual use case, that's also a big aspect of what you're building at SkySpec, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Now, please walk us through the traction that you've seen. So my understanding is that you're already working in some pilot projects. You've already won some awards. Can you please expand a little bit into that?
We are a very short company. We've been working together in less than a year, I believe, so far. And it has been a roller coaster. We have been invited a couple of incubators, one incubator in Australia. We won an internal prize in a contest in Tokyo. Also, we developed a couple of IP patents. We are doing, as you mentioned, a pilot for a company. So we are in this way of raising the opportunities, and also our participation in the XPRIZE is making us targeting these objectives that we believe are very important.
And this is actually, as you were mentioning, Jovan, this is actually already at an international scale. So it's not only inside Japan, but it's also Australia. So in general, Asia Pacific. Despite the fact that it's a young company that you're building, you already have an international reach, if I understand correctly. Could you expand a little bit more of all those different touch points that you now have globally?
It has been, I think, organically from the beginning. As I see it personally, it was not like, oh, let's do this international, but it happened very organically. Like all the things came together. My personal point of view is that these satellites and also the space industry is so international by default, organically, that when you're working with it, it's like automatically you are working in potentially different areas, different countries. Also, the fact that we are multicultural. David is from Malaysia, and Nao Honda is from Japan. Brandon is from the US, and I'm from Mexico. That also integrates very easily in. It's very organically what we are touching all these different places, and the experiences and also the contacts that we have, we bring them together, and also that makes this international happening very organic, I believe.
Just a little bit add on to what Jovan has explained. Basically, the internationalism and focus on any area, any problem that we face globally is that kind of a built-in DNA that we set out. So we don't sort out to focus more on any specific market. We seize any opportunity that is pressing, that is in need, that we will solve. We dive right in, and then we try to leverage what it is available for who needs help. And for example, the Wildfire XPRIZE has been launched, and then we see this working for us, and we just join this initiative and contribute our technology. And it appears to be we are kind of the only team from Japan, and then that's how nimble we are. We are very international and have a global thinking from day one.
And you were mentioning, Jovan, David, about this international characteristic of the team. I would love to learn more about the origin story. Like, how did you all met in the first place? So different nationalities, I understand that you're all based in Japan, but still, like, how did you all got together to build these?
Yes, I think if you have to blame somebody, it should be to me. I'm the one who I'm very, very lucky to have met all of them in the order of Nao-san, and then David, and then Brandon. It's been in different places and in different times. I wonder if you guys would like to share how we met.
I met Jovan. I think I'm oldest maybe. And then about 15 years ago, I met Jovan in Kanazawa. It was my first impression. Jovan is a very strange Mexican, but very interesting and funny. And so he attracted me. And now I'm happy to be here with him.
I think I met Jovan in several occasions that relates to Singularity University local events in Tokyo. So we both have the same interest on technology, and we decided to work together since I'm in Tokyo and Jovan is launching a local chapter. So I just volunteered to be part of the team, run some events together, and even participate in some of his programs. And we started off this way, and over times where we have some our relationship grows better, and one day he says that SkySpec is something that he's venturing, and it happens to be have this some resources that kind of able to complement what he has in AI. So I have experience in the space industry. So we decided that, hey, let's just put our expertise together and create the best product.
What happened for my involvement with SkySpec is, so I happened to be Jovan's neighbor, but we didn't realize how close we were together when we actually first met, started talking about SkySpec. I think I met him through his wife, and we had a meeting at a coffee shop here near where we live. And he basically pitched SkySpec to me as like, hey, like I see this vision for using satellite data, artificial intelligence, machine learning applications to quickly synthesize data. I know that there's potential out there, but I don't really know exactly what we're up against. Like, what's the current methods for various environmental contaminations? And my background is in oil mitigation and recovery research. And so the first thing I thought was oil petroleum industry monitoring. This is the application that it could definitely fit into. So we started looking for opportunities to pilot and to initially fund some opportunities. And we came through in Australia, in a incubator in Australia. And from that, sort of started gaining a little bit of traction. And Jovan started mentioning the use for grid monitoring. And that's where we started to develop the pilot to pitch towards industry in Australia, because they're obviously really interested in utilizing satellite data. And now, because we see that, and we opened our horizon from just sort of thinking about, we both live in Okinawa, Japan. Locally, it was where we started. And then all of a sudden, now we're thinking Australia. And now we're seeing, okay, well, it's not just Australia. It's Europe. It's obviously Japan. It's in America. And there's this need out there. And we just, as Jovan put it, it was just very organic how it sort of grew into, this could easily fit into the global spectrum. And as David mentioned, satellite data is monitoring the world, and everybody could use it. And I think that, and mentioning our strengths again, is in that we want to be flexible, and we do want to work with our customers on the front end to figure out what they need and how we can give it to them so that they can utilize it in the best way, so that they can strengthen their own company. And that's where we want to fit in. It's not just, oh, we have this one product, it fits this way. If you want it, you can have it. If you don't, then too bad. We really want to work and make it work, because our overall vision, as Jovan said in the beginning, was to help protect the environment. But we also want to do it in a way that benefits industry, because we know that industry wants to protect their asset. They don't want to have these problems, but there's just not a lot of options out there for them currently. And that's what we want to interface into.
When I hear your individual stories, if I understand correctly, you're pretty much covering all the bases to build a venture such as SkySpec. So in terms of the expertise in space technology, environment, the user experience, AI. But from your perspective, like, why the four of you believe that you guys have the right mix to make SkySpec a successful startup, but also to achieve that mission? Like, why do you believe you have the right mix in place?
Well, I believe that our experiences is very important, like the years of experiences that David has had, Hondason has had, and also Brandon has had in the different expertise areas, space, user interface, and environment. And myself, I'm very lucky to have many years of AI experience as well. We combine all these skills into a powerful single point that we can utilize the data that is available and provide help for not just people, but big companies, or hopefully even governments. That's our target, to help people, to help the world, to help Earth. Our expertise and the people is that we are, our team, is very, very important.
And looking into the next 12 months, from what we just mentioned, you have big plans ahead. What I would love to learn is, what are some of your key priorities for the next 12 months? What is ahead for SkySpec during this year?
We have to accomplish a few things. The first is to get a solid first set of customers, between 5 and 10 corporate customers, via applying different pilots, firstly. So that's a very, very strong priority. And then also we are cooking some technologies that we expect to patent, at least a couple of them. And as well, very, very important is to fundraising, and we expect to have 10 million USD, and that's what we're looking for. So that's in the next 12 to 24 months. And we really want what is very important for us is to be customer centric. And as David very well said, not pushing the technology, but to understand the customer. And collaboration with experts, like we are participating in the XPRIZE Wildfire. We are looking for collaboration of experts in wildfire and also in quantum computing. We have some things potentially happening there. That's the horizon on the next year, year and a half.
And in terms of the customers that you were mentioning, Jovan, you were mentioning corporate customers. Could you dive a little bit deeper into what exactly is the profile of those initial 5 to 10 customers that you're looking for?
Yeah, ideally, there are customers that have big assets. For instance, let's say a power company that has a grid that extends across different states or even around the country. For instance, it could be Australia, could be US, could be Mexico, for instance, let's say. So we are looking for these corporations that have extended specific assets that we could provide this service. But also the pipelines, for instance. There are many companies have extensive pipelines that we could monitor. So these kind of customers that have a specific need for large size and geographically dispersed assets. So that's the kind of corporate customers that we're looking for.
Yeah, essentially all these corporate customer we are looking at is those customer that already have a budget for doing their maintenance, and they have a sunken cost in doing what they already want to spend. And what we intend to do is to reduce that cost down to, for say, 10%. And this is the saving they can get potentially using our technology. We see them as our early adopters before somebody else coming in that want to use this to maximize the potential, get more revenue. We start with those people who want to save costs in the first place.
And I would assume there's a big efficiency gain here. So it's not only about saving costs, but also being more efficient in the actual monitoring of their assets. No? So I would assume with these different data points that you're connecting, you're probably doing a 10x better monitoring than what current methods are in the space. Could you expand a little bit more of how you see that difference between what most companies are doing today versus what you could offer to them?
Yeah, one of the example I probably can give something in general is in terms of monitoring the farmlands or the forests. In the past, they set up individual watchtower within certain distance, and they probably can send people do the tracking perhaps once a month to go to monitor all these wildlife or the forests. And the frequency they do, it's like I say, once every month or even twice a year, because the mobilization cost is really high to dispatch the people. Then they need to take time to actually go back, bringing back the information or the measurements. But with satellites, since it's orbiting at large scale, we probably can go down to daily or at least weekly to get all this information in an autonomous manner and reduce the cost, and doesn't even need to involve a lot of human on the ground. Human may be still needed just to verify the data, but they don't have to consistently taking the measurement. So that's the efficiency we are talking about here, expanding to different kinds of infrastructure monitoring as well as environmental monitoring.
And from what we mentioned before, you're not constrained to customers in a specific country or region. No? So if there's companies in Latin America, North America, Asia, Europe that are interested in leveraging your technology, like you would be able to serve all of them thanks to the availability of technology, the international setup of the team. Could you please expand on that? Or are you specifically focused on customers in a specific region at this moment of time?
We do have the ability to, using space data, we have the ability to monitor any place or any asset globally. But we first tend to be complementary in the first place. So for those area that is well studied, we can take the result of their study and see how appropriate it can apply to other region. The key point also needs to taken care. The note need to taken care here is the geographical differences. Like not all the reference point in the higher latitude region can use for the equatorial region. So we need to understand the differences of these references. Therefore, we do able to do that, but we try to be complementary. Let's say if some certain area in the equatorial region, such as Southeast Asia or Africa or even Central America, these places has lesser satellite pass by. So we see there's a gap in this understanding context in this geographical region. we would tend to focus those more to be more complementary and set ourselves to have the unique proposition in data providing and specific analytics provider.
That's super interesting. So it also has to do with the current coverage in terms of satellite and where the major gaps exist, where you would be, let's say, initially focused on. Fantastic. So I think this is a fantastic venture, the one that you're building. But since we're unfortunately reaching the end of our conversation, I would just love to learn from each of you your advice for aspiring founders. I think you're building an international venture, tackling a big problem, using leading edge technology. From my perspective, I think what you're building is a great inspiration and a great reference for other founders that would like to build such a high impact venture. I would love to hear from each of you your best advice for other aspiring founders.
I think I mentioned last time that not to be afraid. I think it's very important. Like when you are a little bit afraid of doing something, it blocks you somehow. And I would say also look for the opportunities and start small. Those would be the three main advices that I could say.
I would like to give an analogy of like you are a plant or a flower that blooms in different seasons. So first of all, you need to be patient. If you have a seed in mind to do entrepreneurship in your mind and heart, you can start smaller steps. Don't rush, get your own timing, because your blooming season could be different than others. So get the right timing, start baby steps. And then when the window of opportunity comes, that's the time you'll be able to execute greater. Just like me, I was able to do this venture full-time right now. So at my own timing when I'm ready. But I have planted the seed some time ago. So all these baby steps and the direction will converge in a specific point in your life.
Jovan said not be afraid, but I was afraid to quit my stable job before. But I'm very, very tired of making a document scanner. My curiosity was very bigger and bigger about satellite. So I think not to be afraid and curiosity. I think most important things is my curiosity. Value your friend and equally value my curiosity.
I would say it definitely starts with curiosity and being open and aware of what's around you and what the needs are and sort of where the gaps are. And then beyond that, once you sort of get into thinking about how can I solve these problems, it's important to dream on a global level or a large level, but it's really important to focus initially at the local level and taking small steps, because there's going to be wins and there's going to be losses. There's a lot of that. It's up and down. And it does ebb and flow, and it takes a great deal of persistence and dedication to sort of work through it. But it's something that you believe in, and it's not hard to, it doesn't feel like persistence and dedication. It just feels like you're doing the right thing.
Honda-san, Jovan, David, Brandon, thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time for our conversation today. Again, you have big plans ahead, so I wish you all the best. And of course, we will be following closely how SkySpec and your team continues evolving. So thank you very much for being here and all the best.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And thanks to you for joining us today. Please remember to subscribe via your favorite podcast app to be notified about new episodes and share with us your feedback. We would love to hear from you. Thank you also to the Maxpreneurs team, Valeria Morel, Hector Barragan from Hyper Voltage, Francisco Jaimes, Pamela Elizalde, Katia Cruz, Rocio Marroquin. I am Sergio Chavez. See you next time.